back, everybody, to Coffee with Kelly. And today I have a new guest and some new interesting insights about mental health and well-being. And I am excited to be able to provide for everybody out there, and for myself included, the Indigenous perspective when it comes to well-being and mental health. And so today I have here with me is Mike Cywink. Mike has a strong connection to Thames Valley District School Board around his work with Thames Valley. And just wanted to remind everybody that it is Mental Health Week, and we are, it's perfect time to really amplify that conversation about mental health. And that our theme this week is for mental health is hashtag TVDSB strong. And so, you know, we're here in the midst of this pandemic and trying to stay strong, and we will dive in, Mike and I will dive into that concept of strength a little bit later. But for now, I just really would like, Mike, for you to have an opportunity you and I met a little bit last week in terms of just kind of like seeing each other and connecting and chatting. But I'm going to sort of turn it over to you to give us a really sort of brief idea of who you are and what your connection to Thames Valley is. And then we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to participate in something like this, especially something as important as mental health. So my name is Mike Cywink. I'm currently from Whitefish River First Nation, which is up near Manitoulin Island. And I've been down in London for probably about 10 years now, down in this area, and working with First Nation students, Indigenous students for a majority of that time. I currently work out of the Center for School Mental Health at Western, and we have a partnership with the Thames Valley District School Board. And so I run a program called the 4th R, which is all about healthy relationships and empowering students and getting them proud of their culture. And aside from like the healthy relationship stuff, there's a huge cultural component to it as well, because there's a lot of FNMI students within the school board, so they need that additional support. So whatever that looks like. So I'm just another support within the schools to try and help them high school level and elementary, grade 7 and 8.
Wonderful. And Mike, your reputation precedes you for sure. When I was sort of reaching out and thinking about who out there in our community would be sort of the most authentic representative of themselves as well as their community and connection to Thames Valley, there was no hesitation that you made such perfect sense in terms of being able to be here and talk with me today. So really appreciate that, and wanted to give you an opportunity to speak a little bit about well-being from an Indigenous perspective. And I'm thinking about there may be a lot of people out there, and to some degree me included, that just may not have had a lot of exposure to what well-being means from an Indigenous perspective and in your community, and how that may look a little, well, sort of how well-being is defined may look very differently in some ways. So certainly I am interested in just hearing a little bit more about that, and also knowing that we will have an extended version of this conversation where we can dive into it a lot more. But just like, if I was somebody who had very little exposure to well-being from your community standpoint, what would you want me to know about that?
So first off, I gotta start by saying that I'm Ojibwe, so I'm Anishinaabeg, and all my teachings and everything comes from that sort of lens. Mm-hmm. Within Thames Valley and just outside of London, there's 3 different communities: the Oneida Nation of the Thames, Chippewa of the Thames, and Munsee, Delaware. And all 3 of those different communities have different teachings and different languages and different things like that. different cultures, different ways that they practice, different aspects of who they are and who we are. So everything that I'm going to be talking about in terms of like the cultural piece is going to be coming from that Chippewa Ojibwe perspective, because I'm not Haudenosaunee like the Oneida, right? So I can't speak for them or anything like that. Like everything that I talk about in terms of the cultural piece is going to come from what I've learned on my path, and I'm still continuing to learn.
Right.
A big chunk of the students I work with are Haudenosaunee, and so they teach me things about their culture. Like even though we're all Indigenous or First Nation or whatever, there's very different things within each one of those systems.
Okay.
So one thing that definitely when we're talking about mental health, that the first thing that I thought of when you asked me was the medicine wheel, the Anishinaabe medicine wheel. So that's involves I put one of my paintings up here so you kind of see it in there.
Oh, you painted that. Wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and this is what I'm working on. I'll talk more about them later.
Wow.
But yeah, so mind, body, spirit, and heart and how far those are interconnected with each other within every single person, not just if you're First Nation or not, but in terms of like taking care of your mental health and that you got to take care of all four of those quadrants. They all kind of go together and grow off each other and feed off each other, and it just depends how much like effort, I guess you would say, you put into each one of those different quadrants. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we kind of get into
it. For sure. And I can only imagine, you know, during this time of, you know, physical distancing and how we've all been sort of hunkered down, and we know that people's well-being is on top of the mind for our world actually right now, and I can only imagine how much more you just sort of leaning on your ways of knowing how to connect with your well-being from your perspective, from your cultural perspective, and how much that's sort of meant to you during this time.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody takes care of themselves in different ways, right? And I find that cultural connection is huge.
Yes.
Especially for me, like somebody so busy and so active and stuff, and like it's been really tough, right? It's not just tough on the students or the teachers, it's tough on everybody. We're all going through this together.
Yes.
And even the simplest things like taking my dog for a walk in the bush and having that connection to the land and being around the water, like that's who I am. That feeds my spirit, and that definitely helps. There's more things, but
okay. So we're going to have an opportunity to extend this conversation and dive deeper into what you've already shared with the medicine wheel. I want to hear about the work you do in Thames Valley. I also want to hear a little bit about sort of your connection to our theme this week for Mental Health Week, hashtag TVDSB Strong. And what I've been talking about with my guests is sort of really diving into what that concept of strong means with respect to mental health and well-being, what it means, and what it means to you personally, and what it means to you as a man, as an Indigenous man, as somebody who connects with kids on a personal level. I'm really interested in sort of hearing your thoughts about that as well. So I just want to let everybody know that this was your little snippet of our sort of like a sip of coffee with Kelly, I suppose, and then the extended conversation where we will dive into all of those things will be available through a link that will link to our TVDSB /mental health page, where you can hear Mike and I have maybe like our full cup of coffee and talk further. So thank you, Mike, and to be continued.
Thanks.